Okay, it's going to be a review of WrestleMania 38, nights 1 and 2. And yeah, for the third year in a row, I got to say, night 1 ended up being the better show. And it's funny because I think when you look at, going into the show, what looks like the better stuff of the weekend, I would have said Sunday's show looked like it had the better stuff on it. But yeah, surprisingly, the night 1 ended up being the better show. So yeah, I have mixed feelings on the weekend overall, but there was a lot of good stuff. There was a lot of stuff to like, and yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. We got the Usos taking on Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs, Smackdown Tag Team Championship to open up the show. Yeah, this definitely felt like more of an Usos Smackdown match. Rick Boogs actually had the injury where his legs buckled. I believe he actually ended up tearing a patella or a quad. He had both Usos. He was trying to pick up both Usos for a Death Valley driver or whatever it was. So I guess it's a real injury because they actually did go back to it later on in the show. But yeah, I don't know if you can kind of. The match is okay. I mean, it's a little bit depressing to see where Nakamura is right now. It just seems like he's millions of miles removed, from the Nakamura that everybody loved in NXT and even in New Japan. But yeah, just kind of your generico Usos SmackDown match to open up the weekend. So yeah, I definitely thought night 1. The matches weren't bad. It's just there just really wasn't a lot of memorable stuff, to open up night 1. So next up, you got Happy Corbin taking on Drew McIntyre. I gotta say the video package here was a lot of fun. They showed the transformation of Baron Corbin into Happy Corbin, and yeah, they spent a lot of time on it, but. Yeah, Drew was good here. I thought, the match was pretty much dominated by Corbin in the beginning and the crowd really wasn't into it. And then Drew kind of, took matters into his own hand and really turned around this thing. And, by the end of it, Drew hit all of his, basic offense and really got the fans into it. It wasn't a bad match. It just kind of sucks that McIntyre had to settle for, Baron Corbin as his WrestleMania opponent. But I'll tell you what, though, Corbin's had some really good opponents over the years. It's just the matches just don't really deliver or have any replay value. But yeah, a big win for McIntyre, but somewhat depressing compared to, what happened 2 years ago. It's just, you just wish he was put in a better match now that WrestleMania is full capacity for the first time in 2 years. Okay, so next up we got The Miz and Logan Paul taking on Rey Mysterio and Dominik. Yeah, one of the better surprises of the weekend, I would definitely say. I thought, Mysterio, Dominik was actually struggling for the tag throughout most of the match. When he did make it to Rey, the fans were crazy for Rey. I thought this is vintage Mysterio. I thought Rey actually looked good. He did the tribute to Eddie, which got a great reaction. Logan doing the Three Amigos kind of sucked. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, you're talking about a celebrity that Eddie had no association with, and you're kind of using Eddie's death 17 years after the fact. It's kind of like, enough already. But, Logan actually I thought Logan looked great. I would definitely say you kind of got like Omega and Ospreay vibes from him, just in terms of his physique, his look. So if he wants to continue training, I think he definitely has a lot of potential. He's definitely a great athlete. I'll definitely give him that. So, yeah, the ending was pretty creative here. It was pretty. I don't think anyone really expected it. So the Miz hits the skull-crushing finale out of nowhere, and then he hits it again on Logan Paul to turn on him. So it was kind of weird. Logan was kind of like, what the fuck? So it kind of had that feel to it. But yeah, you would expect Miz and Logan to have a match down the road. So definitely does make sense. Okay, so move on to one of the better things of the weekend. We got Becky Lynch defending the Raw Women's Championship against Bianca Belair. And yeah, this ended up being great. I would definitely say this is in contention for, WWE match of the weekend. Really surprised me. I think what helped this match out the most is just the spot that they got. Sometimes that makes all the difference. If Edge and AJ got this spot, who knows? Maybe it could have been, the dream match that everybody was, fantasizing about. But yeah, give Bianca credit. She really went out there and proved everybody wrong. I was a little bit, more optimistic than most people around SummerSlam. You know, a lot of people thought, you know, she was ruined after SummerSlam. What really kind of worried me was the reaction she got at Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia. It just seems like the fans weren't into her anymore around that time. But yeah, I thought, you know, if you were patient enough to wait until WrestleMania, you got a great payoff here. I thought Bianca and Becky rocked the house. This was definitely Becky's best match since her return, without a doubt. It may be possibly Becky's best match in the WWE so far. It's got to be up there. But very few people have been able to win a world championship as a babyface back-to-back years at WrestleMania. Probably the first woman to ever do it. You know, the only one I could think of is Austin, you know, winning the world championship in 98 and 99 as a babyface. So give Bianca credit. This is definitely a great moment for her. I just felt like, from an excitement standpoint, this was definitely the better women's match. It definitely had more drama, you know, a lot more counters that were just breathtaking to watch. Some of Bianca's transitions into the Kiss of Death were definitely must see. So if you saw Bianca last night on Raw with the black eye, it definitely came from Becky doing the Molly go round when her knee actually hit Bianca right in the eye. So that's probably where the black eye came from. So yeah, probably the most memorable spot in the match was when Becky landed Bianca on the steel steps, and Bianca had to, you know, get back in the ring before the 10 count. I thought that was a really, really dramatic part in the match to beat that 10 count. And yeah, I thought the ending came off great. So this was definitely, you know, arguably the best match of the whole weekend for the WWE. So great stuff, you know. And the fans were really into Bianca too. So I think, you know, I think a lot of it had to do with placement. And then at the same time, I think the video package, it felt like a very well-built feud. And the video package is really designed to make you want to see Bianca win it back. And yeah, the fans are great here. It definitely came off great. So awesome stuff between both girls. And yeah, if anyone doubted that, you know, that Bianca wouldn't be able to regain, you know, that fan base or that reaction, I think she proved a lot of people wrong. So good stuff there. Awesome match. And then next up, we got this is probably my personal match of the weekend for the WWE. I'm going to give it up to Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. Yeah, I thought the match was incredible. Got to give Cody respect here, too. You know, your first match back into the company, thrown right into WrestleMania in this environment, it had to be difficult to pull off. But it really seemed to me like Cody and Seth, you know, behind closed doors, really worked out a beautiful masterpiece right here. This was awesome stuff. You know, Cody finally coming out there. You know, it was kind of like I'll believe it when I see it type of thing, because you just never know. But it really felt like AEW Cody Rhodes. He was using the same music. He has the same look. The wrestling style did not feel watered down. I love Seth's reaction to seeing Cody Rhodes. I love the trash talking from Seth, too. You know, welcome back to the big leagues. Like, good to see you, and giving him the cheap shot. So I thought Seth was great here in his role. Yeah, really good match, too. There was really a lot of creativity here. A lot of beautiful counters from the crossroads into the curb stomp. The inverted superplex off the top rope. That was probably one of the best high spots of the weekend. It was just the way they executed it, and the transition into the Dragon Sleeper from Rollins, I thought was great too. So yeah, really unpredictable match. I just really thought, you know, Cody coming from the competition, going up against Rollins, who a lot of people were expecting the main event WrestleMania after Survivor Series. It definitely felt like, you know, Rollins was set up to win this thing. But yeah, you know, when you spend that kind of money on Cody and you want Cody to make an impact, you know, I think looking back on it, it's a no-brainer that Cody was going to win this thing. But, you know, you just never know. You know, Brock actually lost his first match when he came back in 2012. He actually lost it to Cena. So I figured you never know. Sometimes they kind of want to punish the guy for leaving and then coming back. But, yeah, this is a great experience for Cody. He just came off like a star. You know, obviously they signed him to a lot of, you know, it's a huge deal. He's going to make a lot of money, but at the same time, it it really does feel like he has unfinished business. And, you know, like he said, there's a lot of equity and prestige with the Rhodes family. And, you know, it just definitely makes sense on a lot of levels. But yeah, a lot of ups and downs for Cody over the years. And yeah, I'm glad that he's back. I do think it's a better fit for Cody right now to be in the WWE. When you look at what they're going for with the audience and, you know, just the way the WWE is right now, I would definitely say, you know, and plus the reaction that Cody was getting in AEW, I think that was icing on the cake for him, because I think they love that. They love those guys that get that mixed reaction. That's what Cody was getting. But yeah, give Rollins a lot of credit for putting over Cody. You know, he really had to swallow his ego and did the right thing. And looks like Rollins is going to be a babyface now. He came out laughing and all that stuff, but he shook Cody's hand on Raw. And yeah, icing on the cake right there. Great matchup right there. Definitely, to me, the best match of the weekend for the WWE. I'll say that. Okay, so next up, you got Ronda Rousey challenging Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I got to tell you guys, like, I was really down on the decision to have Ronda win the Royal Rumble, and I don't know. I didn't even think about, you know, whether there was going to be a thirst or an urge to see her wrestle at WrestleMania again. But yeah, she really proved me wrong. I thought this was a good match. I don't think it was as exciting or as memorable as the Bianca match. But yeah, this is more ground and pound. This is very MMA influenced. But at the same time, I thought there was a lot of good submission wrestling here. I just felt like it was competitive. The highlight of the match was probably the sequence where Charlotte ended up doing the figure eight to Ronda. I just thought it was very well executed. Just had a lot of really good hard strikes, hard submissions, and yeah, I thought it was good stuff. Now, from a crowd reaction standpoint, did Ronda blow me away? Like, did Charlotte really? I can't say that the support for Ronda was any more than there was for Charlotte. It was pretty much right down the middle. I don't think the fans were that invested, but they were respectful, though. Very respectful. And yeah, Charlotte kind of used the Charles Robinson referee bumps to her advantage and ended up winning. You know, solid match. I wouldn't say it was great. I wouldn't say rush out of your way to see it. But I would actually say it was better than I expected. I feel like if Ronda had the type of crowd that they had at WrestleMania 34, I think they might have turned on her. But yeah, it actually came off pretty good. Okay, so now main event, we got the Kevin Owens show with the returning Stone Cold Steve Austin. I would say this was great stuff. This was great for Kevin Owens. I feel like Owens could really use, you know, this whole situation with Austin and really catapult himself to winning a championship down the road. I know it's going to be a lot tougher now because there's only one championship, with Roman being the undisputed champion. But still, I think Kevin Owens' stock is a lot higher. I think Sami Zayn's stock is a lot higher after this weekend. I like to see Kevin and Sami, you know, reunite as a tag team and take on RK Bro. I think that could be your main event at Backlash. RK Bro taking on Sami and Kevin. It doesn't look like they're going in that direction. Looks like Kevin's going to be still a heel and feuding with Elias, believe it or not. But yeah, I thought this was a great experience, man. I thought the highlight of the whole Kevin Owens show was just the back and forth dialogue between Owens and Austin. You know, Austin kind of gave you a little bit of that 2001 heel stuff where he's like, "You got your little haircut? What? Am I supposed to be impressed? Flapping your gums?" I was surprised at how much dirty language they used too. Like, they used the shit word more times than you could even remember. So yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. The match was what it was. But yeah, I thought this was icing on the cake because, you know, Austin's first match was in Dallas when he was trying to break into the business. You could say his last match was in Dallas, and you know, the entrance was cool. The stuff with the Kevin Owens called it the golf cart, but the you know, the four-wheeler stuff was pretty fun. You know, they kind of brawled throughout the whole arena throughout most of the match. But I thought the ending was cool though. When Owens hit the stunner, it was kind of like a payoff for Owens using the stunner for all these years. And, the ending, they kind of went to the Kurt Angle ending. I think Angle was the first one to ever do that, where he tries to hit him with the chair and it ricochets and hits him right in the face. Then Austin hit the stunner. So good ending. It was kind of icing on the cake for Austin's career. Let's face it, I was happy for Austin. Hopefully he gets a lot of money for this. He was forced to retire early. The acting thing, I don't think his heart was ever in acting like it was with The Rock. So I think everybody loves Austin, and we're just happy to see that he got a, great ovation and great payday. Austin, Undertaker, and Triple H all got great respect from the crowd. So it was great to see that. All right, so let's move on to night 2. Okay, we open up the show with RK Bro, the Street Profits, and Alpha Academy. I got to say, as this match was going on, I thought it was beautiful, man. It was perfect. Like, the crowd was great. Exciting spots, especially from Montez Ford, man. He busted out some really nice things. The Doomsday, I don't know what you want to call it, the Doomsday neckbreaker from Montez. That was probably the most memorable spot in the match. I got to give it up to Orton, though. This might have been Randy Orton's best WrestleMania moment in terms of crowd reaction. The hot tag for Orton got treated like a legend. It almost kind of made you feel like this is the one time where, maybe Orton was kind of underutilized at WrestleMania. Riddle did the RKO off the top rope. That was cool. Alpha Academy guys were great. I thought the match really had a nice pace to it. Just a little bit disappointing that they went home so early. I got to say, I was kind of hoping that this wouldn't end with Chad Gable actually jumps off the top rope. Orton gives him the RKO on the way down. But I got to say, that ending doesn't get old. It's still getting a great reaction. So I guess they're just going to keep on milking it until that finish gets old. But I was just in favor of this getting like at least 25 minutes, just have it tell more of a story and be drawn out. But I'll tell you what, though, it came off great. I would definitely say this is one of the better things of the weekend. I would definitely give it 3.5. I just, more than anything from the whole weekend, I wish this could have gotten more time. Okay, next up we got Bobby Lashley taking on Omos, as Edge would call him. And This was pretty cool. So what really stood out here is that they were selling the fact that Bobby Lashley had a bad back, so they didn't know if he was going to be able to get Omos up. The funny thing is, my back is killing me right now just from watching this on the laptop. So you could only imagine how much pain Lashley was in trying to suplex Omos, but he was able to do it. I thought Lashley showed some tremendous feats of strength. The takedown spear was cool. Almost wasn't bad, but, the match was pretty forgettable overall. But it was just a nice little attraction to see Lashley get a dominating victory. I would say this was, kind of, I put it in the middle in terms of matches from this weekend. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything too great. But, it gave everyone a chance to see Bobby Lashley have his moment. The suplex is what came off better than anything. Okay, so next up we got Sami Zayn taking on Johnny Knoxville. Anything goes match. A lot better than expected. Knoxville was great here. He pretty much had, all the weapons and everything at his disposal here. The mouse traps. Sami took some nasty table bumps. The supporting cast was actually a lot of fun here. The midget stuff with the Andre the Giant like suplex to Sami Zayn was pretty cool. But I know Johnny Knoxville was actually good here. This is another good celebrity performance. A lot of times in the past, this jackass stuff has not went over very well. When you look back to TNA with Russo coming in and the X Division guys doing the jackass stuff. A lot of people look to that as the decline of TNA. But this is actually one of the better things of the weekend for the WWE. But I think more than anything, what you can take away from this match is that Sami played his role really well. I mean, this is a tremendous wrestler, Sami Zayn. He was under a mask for years as El Generico, and we've seen him have classic after classic, and especially in matches like this, where it's a ladder war, or a no disqualification match or a street fight. So he was definitely at home here. But just Sami actually taking the pinfall from being caught in the mouse trap or the rat trap was just classic. I just feel like Sami really elevated his stock here as an overall character. You know, I would love for Sami to be more of a serious wrestler, and sometimes I kind of wish he would just go back to being El Generico and just be a great wrestler again. But the WWE has really made him an over-the-top character, and I just thought he played his role here very nicely. I just love for him to. I would love for Sami and Kevin to just be rewarded for putting over the legend in Austin or the, the celebrity in Johnny Knoxville, and just, get them back together again, have them go for the tag team titles. I love to see that again. But yeah, you can't deny it. Sami was, to me, Sami was the star of the match. Just the bumps that he took, the facial expressions. He was definitely a lot of fun. Okay, so next up we got the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. I was really dreading watching this thing. I don't know, man. I just felt like you just had too much going on here. So you had Naomi and Sasha Banks actually dethroning Carmella and Queen Zelina. So you also had Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. And then you had Natalya and Shayna Baszler here. Okay, so it was hit or miss. Sasha Banks definitely stood out like a sore thumb. I would definitely say she's got to be. And if you want to look in the history of the WWE and you want to find a girl that's equally as hot and equally a great wrestler, I'm going to give it up to Sasha Banks. So it was a great moment to see her and Naomi win the belts back. She actually has her hair green and blue to kind of mix in with Naomi's attire, so I thought that was pretty cute. I thought what really took away from the match was the Carmella and the Corey Graves stuff. I really did, and Queen Zelina and Carmella as a whole. I just found them to be kind of annoying here. Probably one of the highlights of the match was the Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley with the triple powerbomb, the simultaneous triple powerbomb. I thought that was pretty cool. Natalya and Shayna, just nothing really memorable from them, but at times I felt like it was a mess. But by the time the finish came, I guess it wasn't bad. It was a pretty solid match, but it's something that just came off like it could have been on Raw. Okay, next up we got Edge taking on AJ Styles. This is the dream match of the weekend. I think from a wrestling standpoint, a lot of people were really, relying on this to really deliver for the weekend. I got mixed feelings on it. I thought there was a lot of good work here. There's definitely a lot to like, but ultimately, I'm a little bit disappointed with a lot of different things. The first thing is Edge. Okay, I really feel like Edge kind of hit the panic button. Like when you look back at the couples feud that he had with Miz. He started up tagging up with his wife, and maybe Edge figured, the only way out of that was just to turn heel. And I think he kind of jumped the gun. I think Edge has a lot of bad memories of, the fans turning on him in his hometown of Toronto when you go back to SummerSlam. So I think Edge just felt like he wanted to turn before the fans turned on him. I think it kind of had that feeling to it. I just feel like Edge's comeback has been great, and none of the fans really turned on him. And maybe why not just wait to turn heel until maybe the time is right. I would have loved for Edge to turn heel after the match. I think that would have been the better way to go. I would have rather had this been babyface versus babyface, and I think one of the other issues is AJ tagging up with Omos. You can't get that time back. In a lot of ways, it kind of felt like someone that spent too much time in the G League. Then all of a sudden, you're thrusting them into, the big leagues at WrestleMania against a Hall of Famer. So I think AJ was in a tough spot too. I think they could have done a better job. Maybe you do AJ versus Omos with AJ getting a clean victory in the main event of Raw. AJ did eliminate Omos at the Royal Rumble, but, maybe an actual match with AJ going over would have been the better way to go, because I think there was a match where Omos actually did beat AJ clean. So yeah, definitely they could have gotten more emotion out of AJ. But man. Okay, so move on to the actual match here. They actually got 24 minutes and 5 seconds, so they got more time than anybody at WrestleMania. So obviously, I don't think the time was a factor at all. I thought they got the right amount of time. AJ was actually selling the shoulder for the bulk of the match, which was really not that noticeable at first, but on the second viewing, the shoulder stuff was really good selling from AJ. In some ways, I really felt like there were parts of the match where I felt like this is more of the New Japan version of AJ Styles. I really thought there were some really hard suplexes. The suplex onto the edge of the ring apron was good. The transition into the Styles Clash where Edge just getting up his shoulder, I thought that was really cool too, because it kind of shows you that the Styles Clash is the kind of move where you can't really kick out of it unless you get that shoulder up. So I thought that was good stuff. There was some really, really good stuff in this match. I'll definitely say that from a wrestling standpoint. I think what irked me about this more than anything is just the crowd reaction. At first you heard a lot of dueling chants, but throughout the bulk of the match, though, it just seemed like the fans didn't really know how to react to Edge. He came out with a new entrance, a new look, and I would have preferred for Edge to stay babyface. Just let the fans pick who they want to cheer for. I don't think Edge really needed to get this dark and this personal with the actual feud, though. Just kind of, it's kind of slow paced in spots. I would have preferred this to be more of a finisher fest. I think it could have been a little bit more faster paced. But at the same time, I thought this definitely did have some good wrestling to it. I really thought AJ looked great at certain points in the match. So everything here was good stuff. I really felt like before you got to the finish, you could have done some really creative things with the phenomenal forearm into the spear. Now they did do, after Edge took that nasty suplex, AJ did hit the springboard 450 onto the back. I thought that was a great near fall, but when AJ was going for the phenomenal forearm, all of a sudden Damian Priest just comes out of nowhere and just gives AJ a look. AJ doesn't really know what to make of it. Edge counters the phenomenal forearm into the spear. Very predictable ending. Obviously, you knew that spot was coming. It's just the timing of it was just a little bit deflating. I just don't like the finish. I really don't. I really feel like Damian Priest being out there, it kind of came off like it was all about him in terms, rather than it being about this dream match. And I just figured, like, why now? Why does Edge have to, side with Damian Priest now? I just wish this could have been. I think you could do the Damian Priest thing, maybe after the match or maybe the next night on Raw. I think AJ really needed the victory a lot more than Edge did. I think AJ needed this victory bad. So Edge going over, it kind of makes it look like they want this new Edge heel character to get a huge victory, and maybe they want to get more emotion out of AJ Styles after this. But, it just, the match was what it was. I thought it was good. Was it as disappointing as AJ versus Nakamura? I'll say no. But it kind of continues the trend of, AJ just can't deliver that classic at WrestleMania. I thought the Jericho match was good, but some people even said that was disappointing. I forgot that the Orton match even happened. I think AJ and Orton went second at WrestleMania 35. I almost forgot about that. And, the Shane McMahon match was probably AJ's best match at WrestleMania. I think the most well-received AJ at WrestleMania match is probably the Undertaker match. If you want to count that, that was very well-received. But when you look at the opponents AJ's had at WrestleMania, they've all been really good opponents. The build for a lot of these matches has been very well done, but it just seems like when AJ gets to WrestleMania, he just can't deliver that great crowd reaction, for his actual matches. In terms of Edge's matches, this felt a little bit more like Edge versus Jericho at WrestleMania 26, where the fans just didn't seem like they were all the way there And, maybe some people would argue that the Edge and Jericho match from WrestleMania 26 felt flat. So it felt, out of all of Edge's WrestleMania matches, I would say it definitely had that feeling to it. And yeah, I just kind of, even though I would say the actual work here was better than the Nakamura match, it definitely kind of gave me AJ Styles versus Nakamura vibes. So yeah, I think the match could have been better. I wish Edge had really politicked for a better finish here. I just wish he would have held off on the Damian Priest stuff. But obviously, I think they want Edge to, start making new stars. So you have that whole thing to deal with. I just feel like Edge. I feel like Edge and Randy Orton probably have more power than anybody in the company to get that finish changed. And I just would have preferred this to be babyface versus babyface, and let the fans choose who they want to root for instead of kind of forcing a good versus evil thing where it just really didn't need to be there. But at the same time, man, they could have done a better job of building AJ up. But it kind of brings up that question: is AJ still like really a great fit for the WWE? I think when you look back on it, yeah, I mean, he was the MVP like the first couple of years. AJ's had some bangers. As Trademark just would say, he sent me a text and he was a little bit disappointed by this too. But like, make no mistake about it, AJ Styles in the WWE has, for the most part, it's been a lot better than expected. I've always felt like TNA. When I look back on it, I still feel like the TNA Impact Zone environment, or the TNA environment in general, is where AJ's at home. And maybe like the WWE has never really fully embraced AJ yet. When I think of AJ, I don't think Ring of Honor. I don't think New Japan. I don't think WWE. I still think TNA. So maybe that has a little bit to do with it. And I don't know. I don't know if AJ really made the right decision by re-signing with WWE. I just feel like an AJ Styles CM Punk feud is really kind of where, Punk really blames AJ for, leaving Ring of Honor and going to the WWE. If you go back to the summer of Punk, you could tell he was still a little bit ruffled by AJ choosing TNA over ROH. So I always look at that as something that AJ could always really go back to, and it could just be something really monumental. I just don't see a lot of future for AJ and WWE. I still feel like more than now, and maybe the Omos stuff has a little bit to do with it, but I really felt like there was a disconnect with AJ and the fans at WrestleMania. But hey, make no mistake about it, I still thought the match was good. It just wasn't the dream match that I think a lot of people envisioned. And I do blame WWE as well. I think they jumped the gun on the Edge heel turn, and they could have done a much better job of promoting this and, making AJ look a lot better, going into this thing. Okay, so next up we got Sheamus and Ridge Holland taking on the New Day. We continued the dark mood here. Really, I guess Pete Dunne is going by Butch now. He looked like a pitbull out there. And on top of that, they showed the Big E bump where it looked like he had a bad fall and couldn't be a part of the WrestleMania. So that sucks as well, because going into day one, Big E was the champion, and for whatever reason, he's not at WrestleMania. I don't know if that was a work. I don't know if Big E wants to take time off, or if he really did hurt himself. I mean, doing a belly-to-belly to Big E is no joke. I mean, that is a nasty bump. So it just sucks that he wasn't involved at WrestleMania. And yeah, Sheamus, I was actually okay that the match was short. I don't think anyone wanted to see the match in this spot, but it just kind of continued that dark mood on the show. Okay, so next up we got Pat McAfee taking on Austin Theory. Vince comes out. Vince didn't have a good night in my opinion, but I'll give McAfee credit. McAfee was the most over guy of the weekend. Incredibly, unbelievable. I mean, people just love his personality, and Theory got a lot of heat. I think it has to do with the fake teeth, the selfies with the fake teeth. He's just not a likable guy, but I thought he was good here. I thought, he's a great athlete. His selling of the stunner was actually pretty good here. I think besides Shane, besides The Rock, I think Theory actually oversells the stunner, almost as good as anybody else. So yeah, McAfee was good here though, man. McAfee was good. The what do you call it? The springboard avalanche suplex where he actually jumped up onto the top rope like Shelton Benjamin or like Kenta. Yeah, man. I think McAfee has a great personality. He's all over the place. He's on SmackDown. He actually opens up for Mad Dog on Mad Dog Radio. So, yeah, I mean, the guy just really did connect with the fans. But it kind of brings you that question of, is it a problem if the celebrities or the announcers are more over than the actual talent? Because, this was able to follow Edge and AJ Styles, and McAfee just got, it just felt like the fans were more invested in the McAfee match than the AJ Styles match. So it's just something to think about. So, yeah, that was actually okay. I would say McAfee in theory was not a bad match. And then we transition into Mr. McMahon taking on McAfee, which, yeah, I guess Chase was right. This is one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. So, I was asking Chase by text. I was like, AJ's coming out to the ring with blood. It's like, what the fuck is that about? So it looked like AJ might have hurt himself on the entrance. I think when people saw the blood, though, like I've seen Austin. If you look at WrestleMania X7 with Austin and The Rock, especially if you watch it on a laptop, Austin has a cut on his forehead, but they sealed it up well. But there are times where you can notice if the guy's about to blade. I just thought maybe it was a blade job just gone wrong or something like that. But yeah, I guess AJ did cut himself. And maybe that's a sign. Maybe that's a sign that, AJ needs to move on from the WWE. I mean, it just seemed like everything that went wrong for Edge and AJ just kind of, I wouldn't say the whole match went wrong, but I just think the bleeding on the way to the ring, I just think that was a bad sign. Okay, I lost my train of thought here. So we move on to, Vince and Pat McAfee. I'm not even going to rate this match, but yeah, Vince looked bad, though. Vince looked really bad. He almost reminded me of my friend Sal, who is in his 70s as well. But yeah, Vince was just not moving well. The Vince, he probably took one of the worst stunners ever. The stunner looked bad. It looked even worse than Trump. I don't know if he was trying to escape or what happened there. He just can't take the stunner anymore. So the Vince stuff I bet you he regrets even coming out. I think it would have been better off. The show would have been better if Vince didn't come out. But you definitely understand it, though. This way you could have Austin on the show, so it definitely makes sense. I just would have scrapped the Austin and Vince stuff. That's just my personal take on that. And next up, we have the winner takes all match for the WWE and WWE Universal Championship match, the Undisputed Championship match at WrestleMania. Roman and Brock. Oh, man, what should I say about the match? Okay, I would say this. In terms of crowd reaction, this is the type of crowd that I think they were always hoping for with these guys. It was pretty much mixed. It was pro-Roman. It was pro-Brock. They didn't boo either guy. I thought Brock's... he actually did the ring announcing for himself, and he was great. So I'll say this about Brock. Since he returned since SummerSlam, I think this has been some of the best microphone work Brock has done. I think Brock has seemed engaged. So I would definitely say the 2021 and 2022 stuff for Brock so far has been pretty good. I think Brock has been good. I think the matches are even better than maybe 2019 Brock Lesnar. He actually moves a little bit better. So that was a positive. The crowd reaction was a positive. I would definitely say this. The Roman push, it's finally paying dividends. It seems like it's finally working. He needed to turn heel. That's one thing about Cena, though, that you got to give him credit for. He was able. I would say Cena really turned the corner WrestleMania 28 against The Rock. I think at that point everyone really accepted Cena as the guy, as a main eventer, as the face of the company. And I think people were pretty much cool with it when you get to 2011, maybe 2012. But it really does seem to me like the patience is finally off with pushing Roman Reigns. I think at first it hurt business, and it definitely turned a bulk of the fan base away. But at this time, I feel like it's kind of bringing in a lot of new fans. It's really implemented a lot of diversity within the WWE, and him going over here was good. I thought it was the right decision. I think if Roman's going to be the guy, Roman's been champion since SummerSlam 2020 or a little bit after SummerSlam 2020, and the reign is approaching historic number of days now. Like, there's only 4 guys that have held the belt longer than Roman. So the championship does feel credible. In terms of the match, though, I think you can argue this. It was kind of the same stuff from them. It was pretty much a clone of the Crown Jewel match, and, very similar to a lot of the other matches, with, Paul Heyman actually distracted Brock, and Roman spears Brock through the barricade. Brock transitions, he counters the spear into the F5. Brock does the Kimura. Roman does some really good selling. Yeah, Roman's selling was pretty good here. Brock kicks out of the spear. Brock kicks out of the Superman punch. And then the ending featured Roman sucking it up after the Kimura and spearing Brock. I think the match could have been a little bit better. I think, once again, it felt like more of a Brock Lesnar type of match where he didn't really want to go too long. Rather than being a little bit more creative. I would still say the WrestleMania 31 work between them was definitely the most interesting match that they've had. I think at that time, Brock sort of had a cool factor with the smart marks, and the fans were just giving it to Roman at the time. So Roman really kind of, created that, that polarizing reaction. And I just felt like that whole match, and then, Seth Rollins cashing in with icing on the cake. So definitely the WrestleMania 31 match is still their best work together. This really felt like, the same kind of match that they had at Crown Jewel, like a 3.5-star sprint. I would definitely say the atmosphere was a lot more positive than WrestleMania 34. WrestleMania 34 was more of a storm of negativity. The SummerSlam 2008, I think it was SummerSlam 2018, they main evented that show as well. That was kind of more of the same, a match that no one really wanted to see. But by the time you get to WrestleMania 38, it was pretty good. It was a good main event. I would say if you want to stack this up against some of the other main events in WrestleMania history, it probably beats out a bulk of them. It really is a lot better than some of the Triple H main events. It's a lot better than Triple H versus Roman Reigns, and it's even better than some of the other matches that they've had. So pretty good stuff. I agree with Roman going over. Brock actually didn't even look too mad getting beat, and Heyman was actually a huge part in the match with the rope break, bringing the rope towards Roman on the Kimura. Heyman does feel very far removed from the guy he was in ECW. But, you could argue that that's a good thing. So, yeah, I mean, the WrestleMania, this 2-night WrestleMania, I'm not a huge fan of the format, but it does give a lot of matches the chance to really deliver. And I will definitely say that. I don't think the format is bad. There is like a lot of crap that I wish they could have cut. But for the most part, you definitely understand the 2-night format. I can't say that it was a better weekend than last year. I thought both main events last year were probably better. I would actually say the triple threat from last year was better than Roman and Brock. And obviously, you can't really compare Austin and Owens to Bianca and Sasha. Obviously, Bianca and Sasha was the better match. So yeah, it's tough to say if this was better than WrestleMania 36 and 37. I'll put it above 36. I don't think I'm going to put it above 37, though. I'll definitely say that. Just some extra thoughts. Kevin Owens actually main events WrestleMania. So, CM Punk has got to be fuming over that. And the funny thing is, he didn't like Owens when he was opening up Ring of Honor shows like Stalemate and Fate of an Angel. So, I'm sure he respects Owens or Kevin Steen a hell of a lot more now than he did back then. But at the same time, I mean, you gotta wonder how Punk feels about Kevin Owens and guys like Seth Rollins, main eventing WrestleMania over him. So it's just something to think about there. I'm just trying to be a bitch by bringing that up. But yeah, I mean, the weekend as a whole, I would definitely say Briscoes and FTR definitely stole the show. I thought Supercard of Honor was a great show. I thought Supercard of Honor blew away the NXT show. The NXT show was fine, but it definitely wasn't anywhere near what some of the NXT takeovers were in the past. And yeah, I would definitely say from a like who really stood out this weekend. I would say Dax Hardwood, man. I thought he was great. His post-match promo on the Young Bucks, The Young Bucks coming back was a huge surprise too. Like the reaction the Young Bucks got, it felt huge. But they're that shouldn't have been that much of a surprise looking back on it, because they were associated with Ring of Honor. Samoa Joe coming back was a huge surprise. This is actually Joe's second return to Ring of Honor. So yeah, I really thought Supercard of Honor delivered match quality wise. Probably the one match I wish I had given a better rating looking back on it this whole weekend. I'm gonna say Jay Lethal versus Lee Moriarty. The funny thing is, True Slayer is he did WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2, but I don't think he's going to actually review WrestleMania, so that's kind of funny. I think the first one to ever do something like that, I think it was Nightmare Baller. Like, he went to the Atlanta shows, WrestleMania 2011. Like, he went to, like, every single indie show you could go to, but he didn't go to WrestleMania. I think he just went back home before WrestleMania. So that's the first time I ever heard of someone doing something like that. So he's probably not going to review the show. I don't see him really caring for this. I think most guys will agree. Edge and AJ had a lot of good stuff on it. There was some really good work there. I just feel like the ending's what really killed me more than anything. That Damian Priest crap. I'm just not a huge fan of Damian Priest. I'm really not. I get the fact that Edge and Priest, they both have like that Gangrel vampire type of look. And Edge wants to like kind of lead his own stable in the darkness and all that shit. But yeah, I just feel like the Edge heel turn should have been a little bit more natural. I felt it was a little bit forced. And the fans have loved Edge. Edge, if you were to ask me who's been the best part of the WWE since Royal Rumble 2020, I would say Edge. He's in better shape now. The matches are pretty. He's having the best matches of his career. I just didn't think it needed to be done. It just felt a little bit forced. But yeah, man, I'll give it up. Seth Rollins and Cody, in my personal opinion, this is the best match from WrestleMania. It's a hell of an accomplishment for Cody. And, Seth Rollins' character, his entrance is really catching on as well. So it really makes sense for Seth to turn babyface as well. So yeah, WrestleMania Backlash should be a lot of fun. Hopefully they keep the filler to a minimum. The celebrities were good here too. That's the final thing I'll leave everybody with. I think the celebrities were good, but at the same time, it's like a lot of people have stated in the past that they wanted wrestling to become a situation where you take really good actors and then you train them how to wrestle. So if the celebrities are really that much of a selling point, do you think that's what the business is going to become down the road, where you take celebrities and just have them wrestle at WrestleMania? So, you got to give it up to them. They McAfee, Johnny Knoxville, and then what's his name? The Miz's guy, Logan Paul. You got to give it up. They were great. I think they performed past expectations. But I don't know, man. I just don't think you want WrestleMania to be littered with celebrities for years to come, because the chances are that this is not going to be duplicated, where you get 3 really good performances from celebrities. But yeah, that's WrestleMania 38. Overall, there was a lot to like. There was a little bit of stuff that kind of, disappointed me. But at the same time, man, this was definitely, overall, I would definitely say this is a great weekend for wrestling. So if any of you guys saw the TNA show, if there's any other shows and matches that anyone wants to recommend, please post in the comment section. It'd be greatly appreciated. And I'm out. All right.